won Jimmy Hill. You know, you couldn't be sure quite what he was going to say next, but that made it even better because it was so unpredictable.
He'd have opened up his options for Fowler, because Fowler was in the best position.
Jimmy, be quiet, will you?
Also, Collymore could break through the Spurs' defence.
Jimmy Hill was more than just a broadcaster. He was a disruptor who wasn't afraid to challenge the biggest personalities in football, which inevitably led to his clash with Sir Alex Ferguson. This legendary player versus player dynamic in the media landscape highlights how Hill's analytical style often rubbed managers the wrong way. Before we dive deep into this historic feud that pitted the voice of the BBC against the power of Old Trafford, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into football history. Hill's journey from a professional player to a revolutionary chairman and eventually a pundit set the stage for a confrontation that would test the boundaries of sports. Journalism. The tension began in the mid-1990s when Eric Cantona's disciplinary record became a frequent talking point on national television, drawing Hill's sharpest critiques. Sir Alex Ferguson, notoriously protective of his squad, viewed Hill's comments as a personal and unfair attack on his star player. As Hill dissected Cantona's behavior during a broadcast, Ferguson watched from afar, growing increasingly frustrated with what he perceived as a biased narrative designed to destabilize his team. This wasn't just a critique of a single match. It was a battle of philosophies between a manager defending his locker room and a pundit demanding accountability. The media landscape of the 90s provided the perfect arena for this high-stakes standoff to play out in front of millions of fans. As the feud escalated, the public exchanges between the two men became a focal point for tabloid headlines, illustrating the player versus player nature of their professional roles. Hill refused to back down from his stance, maintaining that his duty was to the viewers and the integrity of the game, regardless of Ferguson's intimidating reputation. Ferguson, in turn, used his press conferences to fire back, creating a Cold War atmosphere that lasted for months and divided public opinion. Many saw Hill as a brave voice speaking truth to power, while others viewed him as an instigator poking at the most successful manager in English history. This friction emphasized the growing power of the punditry class in an era where television was becoming the dominant force in football. The turning point of this rivalry came when the intensity of the disagreement reached a peak, forcing both men to eventually reconsider the sustainability of their public bickering. Behind the scenes, the pressure of the feud began to weigh on the professional relationship between Manchester United and the BBC's Match of the Day. It was a classic example of two titans of the industry reaching a stalemate where neither could truly win without causing lasting damage to their respective careers. The clash highlighted the thin line between constructive criticism and personal animosity in the high-pressure world of the Premier League. Despite the public vitriol, there was a lingering sense of mutual respect for the impact each man had on the sport they both loved. Surprisingly, the resolution to this bitter conflict did not come through a public debate, but through a private and sincere gesture from the Scotsman himself. Sir Alex Ferguson eventually penned a letter of apology to Jimmy Hill, acknowledging that some of his reactions may have crossed a line during the heat of the season. This letter served as a white flag, effectively ending the feud and proving that even the most stubborn rivals could find a path toward professional reconciliation. Hill accepted the apology with his trademark composure, bringing a quiet end to one of the most talked-about media rivalries of the decade. The gesture transformed their relationship from one of open hostility back to a baseline of professional courtesy and mutual understanding. Reflecting on this saga, the Hill-Ferguson feud remains a definitive chapter in the history of football media, showcasing the power dynamics of the 1990s. It proved that while managers and pundits may often be at odds, the game thrives on the tension between those who play and those who analyze. Jimmy Hill's legacy as a man who would not be silenced, even by the formidable Sir Alex, solidified his place as a pioneer of modern sports broadcasting. Today, the story of the apology letter serves as a reminder that the fiercest rivalries can often conclude with a simple act of humility and grace. This player versus player battle in the studio and the dugout helped shape the transparent, high-pressure media environment we see in the sport today. The clash between Sir Alex Ferguson and Jimmy Hill began during an intense FA Cup match between Manchester United and Norwich City in January 1994. During the heat of the game, United's talisman Eric Cantona committed two separate fouls, one of which involved a high boot aimed toward the head of a Norwich player. This moment of aggression on the pitch provided the spark for a media firestorm that would soon engulf both the manager and the broadcaster. Jimmy Hill, watching from the pundit's chair, did not mince his words when analyzing the volatile behavior. He characterized Cantona's actions as despicable and even went as far as to label him villainous in front of the national audience. These sharp words immediately drew a line in the sand, pitting the outspoken analyst against the most formidable manager in England. When Sir Alex Ferguson was informed of Hill's harsh televised critique, his reaction was swift, explosive, and typically uncompromising. The Manchester United manager launched a scathing public attack on Hill and the entire BBC commentary team, famously dismissing Hill as a prat. Ferguson accused the broadcaster of harboring a bias against his club, suggesting that the match of the day team was dying for United to lose. He argued that Hill was only verbal whenever it suits him, implying that the pundit sought out controversy to maintain his own relevance. This exchange turned a footballing incident into a personal war of words that captivated the sports media for weeks. For Ferguson, it was a matter of protecting his player from external persecution, while for Hill it was about maintaining journalistic standards. Despite the intensity of their public spat, the disagreement was ultimately resolved through a gesture of rare humility from the legendary manager. Jimmy Hill's widow, Bryony Hill, later revealed that Ferguson reached out with a private letter to settle the score once and for all. In the correspondence, Ferguson acknowledged that he had lost his temper and admitted that his reaction had been excessive. He wrote that while losing one's temper can be justified for the right reasons, on this specific occasion there was no valid reason for his outburst. This apology effectively mended the bridge between the two giants of the game, showing a side of Ferguson that the public rarely witnessed. It was a dignified end to a player versus player battle that had briefly threatened to overshadow the season. Beyond his famous feuds, Jimmy Hill's career was defined by a restless desire to modernize every aspect of the beautiful game. As a player for Brentford and Fulham, he was reliable and hard-working, but it was his work off the pitch that truly changed the world. As the chairman of the Professional Footballers Association, he led the historic charge to abolish the maximum wage of £20 per week in 1961. This monumental victory allowed players to finally earn what they were worth, effectively ending what many described as a form of sporting slavery. Hill's leadership in this area laid the groundwork for the multi-million-pound contracts that modern-day superstars enjoy today. Without his courage to stand up to the league authorities, the financial landscape of football would look entirely different. Hill's influence also extended into the dugout and the boardroom, most notably during his transformative era at Coventry City. He took the club from the third division all the way to the top flight, rebranding them as the Sky Blues and introducing radical innovations. Under his guidance, Coventry featured the first Osita Stadium in England, the first electronic scoreboard, and even the first colour matchday program. He was a man who understood the importance of the fan experience long before sports marketing became a buzzword in the industry. He even wrote the club's anthem and introduced pre-match entertainment to ensure spectators felt like valued customers. His Sky Blue revolution proved that a small club could become a modern powerhouse through visionary thinking and bold leadership. Perhaps his most lasting contribution to the global game was his successful lobbying for the 3 points for a win system. Before Hill's intervention in 1981, teams received only 2 points for a victory, which often encouraged defensive, dull football intended to secure a draw. Hill argued that increasing the reward for a win would incentivize attacking play and make the sport more exciting for the viewing public. His idea was eventually adopted worldwide, forever changing the tactical approach of coaches and players in every league on the planet. This change alone cements his status as one of the most important figures in the history of association football. It was a testament to his belief that the game should always strive to be more entertaining and competitive. Jimmy Hill's transition into broadcasting was just as revolutionary as his time in the PFA or at Coventry City. He joined the BBC Match of the Day in 1973 and went on to make over 600 appearances, becoming an iconic figure with his distinctive look and forthright views. He was the first to introduce the concept of a panel of pundits during the 1970 World Cup, a format that is now the standard for every sports broadcast. Hill believed that viewers deserved expert analysis rather than just simple play-by commentary, and he wasn't afraid to be the bad guy if it meant sparking a debate. His presence on screen made him a household name, though his honesty often made him a target for frustrated managers and fans alike. Throughout his life, Hill remained a servant to the game, even famously stepping in as a substitute linesman during an Arsenal versus Liverpool match in 1972. When the original official was injured and the game was at risk of being abandoned, Hill donned a tracksuit and took the flag without hesitation. This moment perfectly encapsulated his get-stuck-in attitude and his genuine love for the sport regardless of his status. Whether he was fighting for players' wages or running the touchline at Highbury, he was always ready to do whatever was necessarily for football. His versatility was unmatched, and he remains one of the few individuals to have excelled as a player, manager, chairman, and broadcaster. When Jimmy Hill passed away in 2015 after a long battle with Alzheimer's, World of Football united to pay tribute to a true pioneer. Legends of the game and former rivals alike acknowledged that Hill was perhaps the most influential individual in the history of the English game. Tributes poured in from every corner of the globe, highlighting his role in the wage war and his relentless pursuit of innovation. A statue was erected in his honor at Coventry Stadium, ensuring that future generations would remember the man who gave the club its identity. His funeral at Coventry Cathedral was attended by the great and good of football, all recognizing the debt the sport owed him. The legacy of Jimmy Hill lives on every time a player signs a record-breaking contract or a team pushes for a late winner to secure 3 points. He was a man who looked at a traditional, often stagnant sport and saw endless possibilities for growth and improvement. While his feuds with figures like Sir Alex Ferguson made for great headlines, they were merely symptoms of his unwavering commitment to his own principles. He was a disruptor who refused to stay quiet, a trait that earned him both enemies and eternal respect in equal measure. Today's high-gloss, high-stakes football world is the house that Jimmy Hill helped build through decades of tireless advocacy. In the modern era of punditry, Hill's influence is visible in every studio where experts break down the tactical nuances of the 90 minutes. He paved the way for former players to have a meaningful voice in the media, transforming broadcasting from a side job into a professional career. His ability to analyze the game with both technical knowledge and a fan's passion set a standard that remains the benchmark for analysts today. Even when his opinions were controversial, they were always grounded in a deep desire to see the game played the right way. This intellectual honesty is what made him such a compelling, if sometimes divisive, figure in the British living room for decades. The story of the apology letter from Sir Alex Ferguson remains a poignant footnote to Hill's long and storied career in the public eye. It reminds us that even in the tribal, often toxic world of professional football, there is room for reconciliation and mutual appreciation. Ferguson, a man known for his own incredible impact on the game, recognized that Hill's despicable comment came from a place of professional duty. The resolution of their feud serves as a fitting end to a chapter that saw two of football's most powerful egos collide. It proved that, despite their differences, both men were ultimately working toward the same goal, the greatness of the sport. As we look back on the player versus player dynamic that defined so much of Jimmy Hill's life, we see a man who was never a victim. He welcomed the challenges, whether they came from the Football League, the BBC executives, or the most successful manager in history. He had a thick skin and a sharp mind, tools he used to navigate the often treacherous waters of English football for over 60 years. His career serves as a blueprint for how one individual can affect massive systemic change through persistence and a clear vision. Jimmy Hill was not just a part of football history. He was one of the primary architects who designed its future. The tributes that followed his death often focused on his special achievement, induction into the National Football Museum's Hall of Fame. This category was created specifically for individuals whose contributions were so diverse they couldn't be pigeonholed into a single role. Hill was a polymath of the pitch, a man who understood the mechanics of a goal as well as the mechanics of a television contract. He was a bridge between the old world of muddied oafs and the new world of global superstars and media rights. His life was a testament to the idea that one man's passion can indeed change the world, or at least the world of football. In conclusion, Jimmy Hill's journey from a chimney sweep's son to a national icon is a story of ambition, intellect, and courage. His clash with Sir Alex Ferguson was just one moment in a lifetime spent challenging the status quo for the betterment of the game. From the abolition of the maximum wage to the introduction of 3 points for a win, his fingerprints are on every blade of grass. He was a man who lived 1,000 lives in one, leaving behind a legacy that is as complex as it is profound. Jimmy Hill was, and remains, the ultimate innovator who truly did absolutely everything in the world of football. His final years were quiet, but the impact of his loud, vibrant career continues to resonate in every stadium across the United Kingdom and beyond. Fans who never saw him play or manage still feel the effects of his work every time they check the league table or watch a replay. He was a gentleman, a maverick, and above all, a visionary who saw what football could be before anyone else did. As we remember the man with a famous chin and the sharp tongue, we recognize a pioneer who never stopped smiling. Jimmy Hill's story is the story of modern football itself, built on the foundations of reform and a love for the game. The legacy of the Hill-Ferguson clash serves as a timeless reminder that football is as much about the personalities off the pitch as the players on it. This player versus player dynamic between the dugout and the studio helped define the modern era of sports media we consume today. While the headlines focused on the Pratt comments and the despicable labels, the underlying story was one of two men deeply committed to their crafts. It took a high-stakes disagreement to reveal the mutual respect that ultimately exists between the game's greatest innovators. Their eventual reconciliation proved that even the most intense rivalries can find common ground through a simple, honest apology. This chapter remains a fascinating look at the friction that occurs when two unstoppable forces of football history collide. Reflecting on Jimmy Hill's life, it is clear that he was never afraid of a fight if it meant standing up for his principles. Whether he was taking on the league authorities to get players a fair wage or critiquing a global superstar like Eric Cantona, his integrity remained his North Star. He understood that to improve the game, one had to be willing to ruffle the feathers of its most powerful figures, including Sir Alex Ferguson. This courage to speak his mind, regardless of the consequences, is exactly why he transitioned so successfully from the pitch to the television screen. His ability to navigate these public feuds with poise is a testament to his character and his deep-rooted confidence. He wasn't just a broadcaster, he was the conscience of the game for over 4 decades. The apology letter sent by Ferguson is perhaps the most significant artifact of this rivalry, highlighting a side of the manager rarely seen by the press. It showed that even at the height of his power, Ferguson was capable of self-reflection and recognized the value of Hill's contribution to the sport. This gesture of reaching out to Hill's family later in life cemented a bond that transcended the brief animosity of the 1990s. It turned a story of conflict into a story of class, proving that dignity is the ultimate winner in sportsmanship. For Hill, receiving such a letter was a silent validation that his voice mattered and that his analysis had struck a chord. His resolution allowed both men to move forward without the weight of a lingering, unresolved grudge. Jimmy Hill's departure from the world left a void that has been difficult to fill, as few possess his unique blend of experience and vision. He was a man who saw the potential for football to be a global spectacle long before the Premier League era truly took flight. Every time we see a pundit dissect a play or a team fight for 3 points, we are witnessing the living, breathing, the legacy of Jimmy Hill. He was a pioneer who moved the goalposts of what was possible for a professional athlete and a media personality alike. His life serves as an inspiration for anyone who believes that a single voice can lead to systemic, worldwide change. He lived his life with a sense of purpose that ensured his name would be etched in the history books forever. The Sky Blue Revolution and the 3 points rule are just fragments of a career that spanned every possible role within the beautiful game. Hill was the ultimate multi-hyphenate, a man whose curiosity and drive led him to explore every corner of the footballing world. He didn't just participate in the culture of football, he actively sought to reshape it for the benefit of the players and the fans. This commitment to progress is what made him such a formidable opponent for traditionalists and a hero for the modernizers. His impact is felt in the stadiums he helped design and the contracts he helped negotiate for the generations that followed. Jimmy Hill was a giant among men, a person whose influence can be found in the very fabric of the sport. As we conclude this exploration of the feud and the life of Jimmy Hill, we are reminded of the passion that fuels this sport. The disagreements, the apologies, and the innovations are all parts of a larger narrative that makes football the most popular game on the planet. Hill's story is a reminder that you don't have to be the best player on the pitch to be the most influential person in the stadium. He transformed the way we watch, the way we pay, and the way we think about football in a way few others can claim. His life was a masterclass in leadership, communication, and the power of a visionary mind. Jimmy Hill's journey is a blueprint for excellence that will continue to guide the sport for many years to come. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into one of the most intriguing professional rivalries and celebrated lives in the history of English football. From the heated exchanges over Eric Cantona to the silent dignity of a private apology, the Hill-Ferguson saga is a true classic of the genre. We hope this script has shed light on the man behind the chin and the manager who eventually chose peace over pride. If you enjoyed this look at the player versus player dynamic of the mid-90s, be sure to share this video with your fellow football fans. We look forward to bringing you more stories from the legends who built the game we love. Until next time, keep the passion for the game alive, and remember the pioneers who made it possible.